Salve, salve, maestro here, and we are back with our Brazilian run. Now, I've already set it total separation to go on, because I was going either for total separation or colonial exploitation. But since I lack the bureaucracy, I added some government administration in order to produce the bureaucracy that I lack of, because I needed both for colonial exploitation and to improve my education institution. One sad thing that happened is that it seems like the British Raj managed to stabilize itself, so probably they won't be exploding and being a free real estate area where we could expand to. So if we want to grab provinces in this area, we might have to fight Britain over it. Total separation is on, and although it delayed by 2 cycles, I guess, we actually managed to grab the bureaucracy that we needed. So it kind of synchronized it, which is great for a very optimized run. So we already can pass colonial exploitation. So now that I've built a 10 construction sector in a single state, that in this case is Bahia. Normally I do in Rio de Janeiro or Minas Gerais, but now I have the decision to create the Ministério de Obras or Construction Ministry. That was a special ministry created just to focus on national buildings and investments, infrastructure, in order to try to build up a proper country. So we can create it and it will give plus 5% construction efficiency. I was looking at the state of the world in order to seek for future expansion places, and then I noticed this. I've never seen Egypt taking on Libya and it's still being a protectorate under the Ottoman Empire. Colonial exploitation is on. Now we can start to expand over this region of southern Africa. And something I was looking and I just didn't understood is how the rural folk is so low on wealth. Like every time after I passed the homesteading policy, they would always go up and become powerful. There was a run that they actually reaches 50% of IG Cloud, but it seems like they don't want it. Maybe it's because I pressed laissez-faire first and it changed the state of the economy. But well, it is what it is. I'm in a very good position of my economy. Like I don't lack a lot of goods. And although my research isn't as optimal as possible, I already think that's good because I'm the way of searching a dialect which will increase our innovation and production. So I started to build up my army to start to invade people. Like since the beginning of the game, I was looking for this Medina kingdom, and I was so right about Egypt. Like the Ottoman Empire is at war against both Egypt and Russia, and guess what? The war is about the Egyptian independence. And I don't know if Russia made a wise decision because of this war with Russia over here, which Prussia is technically winning, but we know how this German unification war normally goes. Like Prussia doesn't always get the best result. I hope that Germany doesn't form because it will be another great power to fight on. Remember that when you have a very stable economy and you have an excess of goods like sugar or meat or tobacco and this kind of thing, you can just go to the military and go to the mobilization tab where you can boost your army by just giving them those goods that are cheap and you can very easily afford them. And finally, we received our first mass migration from Russia, the Circassian people. So it seems like our laws are right. We just need to wait until our standard of living increase more in order to attract more and more Europeans. Elected bureaucrats. Now we don't need to worry about our bureaucracy because of institution. Like we still don't waste a lot of it, but as time passes, the population goes up and we waste more and more and more. Now we have right of assembly, and traditionally I go direct from censorship to protected speech. But I was looking here, and both intelligentsia and the trade unions just endorse right of assembly, but they fully endorse protected speech. So they will support protected speech the same way that they would if the law was censorship. So I already went for it in order to take away this minus 10 technology spread. The only bad thing is that we lose 50 authority, but we are already going that direction and everything's fine. Okay, then. I was not very hopeful about no migrations control. Like, as I said in the last episode, we already had the laws to receive the European migrations, but I had no such a very, very important law to pass. And then I remember that there is a journal entry that gives a ton of migration and some other things, but it needs to have no migrations controls. So I said, well, let me pass no migration control first because industrialists want it. And then I tried to pass something like universal suffrage because this would take away the industrialist power. And something interesting to say about the parliament journal entry is that you can see that the petit bourgeoisie now is angry towards us because we passed non-migrations control and they dislike it. And because of that, this will decrease this progress bar here because of this angry middle class, kind of to represent the conservative middle class that Brazil had and still has nowadays. So some interesting thing happened because now that I'm ain't passing any legislation, I was thinking about actually wasting my authority, but then I was looking for some agitators and I saw this thing. August Lechkoln, a German guy from the industrialist that is radical. So he will strongly endorse universal suffrage, protected speech, and I was already looking for universal suffrage because right now the most important interest group that I need to bolster is the where is it? The trade unions. So I think it will be better for our nation. Like the only thing that I wanted but I don't need is to pass multiculturalism, which needs the intelligentsia approval, and probably passing universal suffrage will decrease their clout. But I think it's fine. We can do it later with some agitator or something like this. So I'm gonna invite this guy. And since the liberal movement are pressuring the industrialists, so I can come here and give him leadership. And as soon as I give him leadership, I can pass universal suffrage with no worries about it. Like the landowners will be mad, but who cares about them? They only got 5%. The only problem that may arise in the future is because he is supporting a republic and we want to stay as a monarchy at least until the magnanimous monarch ends because we want to get those bonus. But most of the times I can control this and keep the monarchy until the late game. The Republican proposal is a unique event to Brazil. If I'm not mistaken, it was something that actually happened that one of Peter II ministers for him to end monarchy and become the first Brazilian president. But in order to complete the magnanimous monarch journal entry, we need to decline it, so we won't be doing that. So while I was trying to enact universal suffrage, this event popped up and I easily can pass universal suffrage by this decision. And that's exactly what I'll be doing because I can go by the normal process, but like it will just delay this thing. Plus 20 enactment time will be what? 20 days by each cycle. So if I need at least three cycles, it will be 2 months. I don't think I need to wait there because like the intelligentsia will be kind of mad, but they are already super happy. And the rural folk will become kind of mad, but they are already unhappy. So I don't care about it. Let's grab a universal suffrage for us. So we already can start our imperialist run, like ignore what we did here. Now we're starting our imperialist. Let's grab Medina Kingdom as our protectorate. So for a long, long time, I was holding this company slot because I had only one available company that was this forestry corporation. And although I know that logging camps are one of the most profitable buildings in the game, I just don't like to waste the company slot for it. And I was waiting for another one that was better. And then I look it up And now we actually can create our gold mine one. And although the gold mine isn't as powerful as it was before, because now the bonus only apply for the company buildings, the minting and the migration attraction is very, very huge. And just to add a little bit of context, casas de fundição was a type of building that existed during the Brazilian colonial time, where every piece of gold extracted from Brazil needed to go for these places in order to be melted and given the royal sign, because at these places they would tax the gold in 20%, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of different than the Spanish colonial empire, where 100% of the gold would go to Madrid. In Brazil, only 20% of the gold would go to Lisbon. So now that we had a little bit of history class, let's establish our casas de fundição. Visconde de Mauá is probably the most illustrious Brazilian industrialist. If you actually pay attention, before I put this guy under the leadership of industrialists, there was a historical guy called Irineu that was exactly Visconde de Mauá. He was very, very important for Brazilian industrialization and modernization. So I made an event to grant him some bonus, like expanding infrastructure because he would build a lot of Brazilian initial railways, increase capitalist investment pool contribution, give a boost to the industrialists, and change the industrialist ideology. So even though they had a greater army than us, the technological superiority is just unbeatable in this game. They still had a regular infantry. So it's just an easy war. Another legislation passed guaranteed liberties. This is just like, okay, I was just looking for another thing to pass. So I'm just trying to liberalize as max. Like, it isn't as exciting as it was in the beginning, but still it's something to do. So war with Medina Kingdom is done. And I think the next target will be Cindy because of two things. Well, I want to secure this interest here without needing to waste an interest. And because they are the only left country in the Indian subcontinent that isn't under British administration, and they produce silk. So it's always great to secure a silk production into your market. Okay, I miscalculated this war because I thought they had irregular infantry, but actually they got it skirmishing infantry, right? No, line infantry. I had skirmisher. So it was a little bit tough. Like my naval invasion was going back. I was becoming a little bit worried, but in the end, we managed to deal with them. The sad part is that I would need to chill a little bit with my Marines because I need their manpower to go up. A strange thing happened because while I was busy invading Cindy, Mexico and United States were at war. And I just noticed, like, in the late stage of the war, and US was actually pushing to the Mexican land. And I can see that US has greater army than Mexico. But they ended in a white peace. Like, I was worried because I would help Mexico to defend against US in order to keep the balance of power in the North America. But then when I noticed the war, like, was already too late, but Mexico itself managed to defeat the Americans. So a very awful run for the United States, right? Okay, I need to fix this title. But the Christie issue happened, and what was the Christie issue were a series of diplomatical fights between Brazil and Great Britain that went all along from the slavery question to British boats sinking in Brazil, and then the local population stole the goods from their boats, and the British government wanted to the Brazilian government for pay for the goods. And it is actually a very interesting situation because like Brazil was just a minor power, only a major power in its own region, that's South America, while Great Britain was the master of the world. And even then, Peter II received a sorry letter from the Empress Victoria herself. So in the game, since we already ended with the slave trade, this event increases our relation with Great Britain. Otherwise, it gonna decrease the relations. It seems that I don't learn because I saw this opportunity. Like Zanzibar is not anymore under Oman administration, so I thought, okay, let's just invade them and make it our way to colonize this area and stealing some land from the British. But then I forgot to see what type of units they had. And they actually have mobile artillery and skirmish infantry. That's the same of us. At least we have more men than them. But that's not why I return. It's because of this. This is our interest group tab. Okay, nothing special. But can you notice something different? Exactly. The landowners are marginalized, which help us in our magnanimous monarch. I thought like, okay, maybe I can do something about Colombia. And then I remembered that Colombia had a defensive pact with Nicaragua. And the matter was that when I was declaring against Colombia, normally France or Great Britain would join on the side. So what I did, basically, I declared on Nicaragua and then Colombia joined. So if this I managed to make Colombia a protectorate, the bad thing is that Mexico gets in the war, so it was much more hard than I thought that it would be, and I wasted much more money than I wanted. But at least I managed to do that. Now we just need to end this war. I won't try to take Nicaragua. I just wanted Colombia, and we will just wait until Mexico accept with the white peace. Coming back after a while, I think I'm seeing an opportunity here in Southeast Asia, both on Dynam and Siam. It's been a long time since we had our last law, but this time is back now with public health insurance to increase even more our population. And I am desperately in need of population because if we see the colonial race here, like the French are completely wiping me out. And both them and the British have the advantage of already searched civilized mission. So I need this extra population to speed up my colony building. While that, the war over Siam is going as expected. I'm managing to land here, and I hope that I can completely wipe the army out and then just wipe peace with the Dutch East Indies. Okay, something that I didn't expect it happened, but it is very obvious, and I don't know how I didn't thought about it, is that as soon as I landed in Siam, all the Dutch East Indies troops can go there, and we are talking about 50. That's basically my entire army. Finally, the Dutch East Indies capitulated, and now I can puppetize all this area of Thailand. Much harder war. Like as you can see, my country is struggling a little bit. Like the economy can go up. The economy is going up, but the public finances can't go up. The private section just doesn't want to build more things, but now we can pauperize them. It's one of the two immigration events that I added. They are basically to reflect how immigration affected the culture of Brazil. So Brazil had a lot of immigration waves coming from Italy, Poland, Germany, Lebanon, Japan. And if I'm not mistaken, the two biggest of them are from the Japanese people and from the Italian people. So I added these little events that just increase a little bit of migrant attraction by a small amount of time, just for a little flavor. And just as a curiosity, there are more Lebanese people in Brazil than Lebanon itself nowadays. So I was here changing the production method, and I wanted to give a little advice that I struggle to understand, that are these green production methods. Basically, the green ones will save you labor. And what I struggle to understand is that normally they will be worse for the weekly balance. So you're going to lose money. But in exchange, you're going to get more workforce in order to work in other factories. So if you're in need of that workforce, always change, even if it's gonna decrease the profitability of the building. Of course, you don't want to do that if the weekly balance will go negative. So what I normally do is if I am in a situation that I don't need more workforce, I would just look here, and if the productivity increases and the weekly balance don't decrease that much, I will switch. So in the situation here of Maranhão, even though the productivity will increase, the weekly balance will be cut by half. So as I am not in need of that workforce, I will not change. But if I were, then I would switch to mechanized looms. Now we have the religious issue event, which was basically a intrigue between the Brazilian state and the Catholic Church, more specifically between the Emperor Peter II and the Pope, which basically the Pope wanted to rule about some stuff over the Brazilian population, which the Emperor didn't like it. But after this moment, the church would lose a lot of its influence over the Brazilian state. So that's exactly what we are gonna do: decrease the Catholic Church pop attraction, which is nothing very huge because they are already marginalized with 1.8. So, do you remember that war that we had over Thailand that was kind of hard because of East India Company troops? Yeah, it was kind of for nothing because Great Britain is invading Siam, and I can't do anything about it because they have basically the biggest army in the world. So I can just stay here and watch they grab some of the provinces. And actually, I think they are grabbing the best province, like the ones that make it worth it to attack Siam. And now they are basically useless for me. Something that I just don't understand is why I am not called for my protectorate wars, at least defensive wars, because this is basically what the name says. Like, I am protecting this guy, this is my protectorate, and then I just can't do anything because if at least I was automatically called to the war, maybe the British AI would think two times before attacking, but no. And I just noticed that I completely lost them. Like, they already left my market, and I'm still with the infamy of it. Completely useless, that invasion. Okay, so now we at least try to protect some children. And I think that I'm doing very fast in terms of legislation because, as I said before, a lot of the times I would just go from the least progressive laws direct towards the most progressive ones. But now I'm locked behind research. So, very interesting and very good. Now I've unlocked the first infrastructure decision. These are centered in the state of Minas Gerais, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo because they are the infrastructure hub of Brazil. These three decisions are railway stations, this one in Minas Gerais, Rio, and São Paulo. And just as a spoiler, these two decisions are the most important for the mod because they are gonna unlock a later decision that's very good. Great Britain simply destroying with my game. They already won the war over Thailand. And then I was looking into other places and to expand. And then I noticed that for some reason, Russia won't be defending Persia. So then I thought, okay, a nice place to expand. Like, they don't have a major army and they have a lower technology than us. So I'll just finish searching civilizing mission because Persia is very expensive and I want this minus 25% in infamy generation. But then what happened? Suddenly a war broke out here and Great Britain stepped in. Now, this thing here is interesting, although I don't think that they will be able to manage and destroy the British Raj. The only good way of this happening is in the beginning of the game when India literally just explode. But in this case, instead of exploding, it's just like a independence war, and they wanted to annex the British Raj. Okay, so the industrialist leader is an authoritarian, and we might have a coup. It can be very great or very bad because I don't need anymore the industrialist power. So this coup can lead to events that will decrease their interest group political strength, but can also and in a coup, which we don't want. So let's see if we can handle this. Now we have civilizing mission, so we can start to go for the big unrecognized powers. And as I said, like this revolution was very weak to defeat the British, but now we can go for Persia with much less infamy. And I think no one will help them. And if some of those stun countries try, I think we can deal with them. And another thing that I was looking for a long time is Sokoto. Because I started colonizing here, my goal was actually to block the French Republic, but then they ended up blocking me. But now what I can do is puppetize Sokoto or maybe grab a province for them to attack either Gobir or Bornu in order to colonize this province here of Air, which is one of the best late game province. So going for this is very, very important. And both the British and the French are already seeking to take control over this area. But first I'll go for Persia and then Sokoto. Now we can sign the Treaty of Bogota. And if I'm not mistaken, this is to take this province here, the Colombian Amazonas, in order to complete our state. And it should have another treaty here to buy Acre. But like since they are all on my subjects, it doesn't really make a difference. But I will do it anyways because we can. So nice. Now we have the populating the Americas journal entry, which we can incentivize the Europeans to come for our land. Like we already are growing our population very, very much due to migration and a special company that I added to Brazil that is JBS. And just so you know a little bit, is one of the biggest, if not the biggest meat business in the world. Like most of the meat produced in the world are produced by them, and they give plus 10 birth rate. Regulatory bodies, now we can protect our workers and decrease even more mortality to increase even more population. Okay, so we managed to control the coup, and now the popularity of Hermes Galvão, which is the industrialist leader, is completely low, and I can decrease it even more. For those who don't know, the popularity of politicians under some interest group, they will decrease or increase the amount of people that this interest group can attract. So if like the leader has a negative popularity, this interest group is gonna attract less people than it would if the popularity was bigger than zero. Now I may need to capitalize under this situation because the two major powers that were always on my back was both Great Britain and Russia. And they are gonna go for a great war. Of course, like it's an easy win for the British, in my opinion. But the matter is that they are in war, so they probably won't go for wars against me. Let me just end this war with Persia that it's much, much slower than I thought it would be, but we're still winning. And we just took their capital and they already are accepting make protectorate, ending slavery. Like, we're taking democracy for them, guys. We're not the bad guys, of course. Now we can establish our first colonial administration. And when they launched this, like, this was very, very bad because if you don't remember, you just couldn't build in your subject. They would decide to do the things they wanted, and it was very, very trash. So people would just keep for them. But now that we can build in our subjects, and one of the most important economic laws for the colonies, in my opinion, that is extraction economy. Like this is the best law for colonies. Now that we have this, this is much, much greater because it will save up your bureaucracy. They're gonna also invest in colonial expansion. So always go for establishing colonial administration. And now you have this event where you can decide how you're gonna twist the political spectrum of the colony. So you can basically create a extraction colony or a population colony. Of course, just to go for this charter company, which will grant us a lot of income. We'll have mine throughput. The local industrialists will gonna support the things we wanted. So this is the best option for sure. Now here we can see that we are the good guys of the world. Like I'm trying to make my subjects ban slavery. And that's not because I need more consumers to my products. Like, I really care for this population. I really want them to be free. But I think that's all for today. I hope you liked the episode. Like, subscribe, and comment. And I see you next time.